Hello and welcome to another session of Dark Souls 3 PvP action. So, as you may remember from my last video, I was messing around with a sorcery build, a pure sorcery build. Something which I'd never done before and, wanted to see how it would perform in the invasions. And blow me down if it wasn't a hell of a lot of fun and held up reasonably well against most kinds of players. Now this is a build that I've been wanting to try for probably about 2 years now, and it's a pure faith build, faith cast build, and this comes back to the whole meme that miracle builds aren't viable in Dark Souls 3 PvP invasions, which, there's some truth in that statement. However, it was something that I wanted to test out for myself, and I want to sort of disperse a few myths about the faith build in Dark Souls 3 as a whole. Now, the reason that miracle builds aren't considered quote-unquote viable in this game is, compared to the other schools of casting, miracle builds don't do well offensively. So with sorcery builds, when you set up your build correctly and you have all the bits and pieces you need, the correct catalyst and all the, the cleric's candlestick and rings and stuff, your damage is that's the highest damaging spell school that's in this game, and you will effectively one-shot people 90% of the time with the Crystal Soul Spear and Homing Soul Mass combo, which more than makes up for the lack of damage, lack of health, that you'll have to suffer through as a result of having that high damage. Whereas Pyromancy, on the other hand, it won't do as much damage as a sorcery build. However, the spells you have available give you a lot more flexibility with your playstyle. So you have the long-range projectiles like Chaos Bed Vestiges and Great Chaos Fire Orb, but then you have more close-range spells like Black Flame and Fire Surge, and to a lesser extent Sacred Flame. And then you have the medium range spells like Black Serpent, which is great for making people roll and forcing panic rolls and stuff, which is fantastic. And because those spells require very low investment, you can have a really decent pyro build with low investment and still do reasonable damage. Well, I mean, everyone's been hit with Chaos Fed Vestiges by some unoptimized PvEer, and it still fucking hurts, doesn't it? So pyro builds are good in that respect, whereas faith builds, they fall down in the damage department. So even with both the faith boosting rings and the best catalyst, you still won't do enough damage to one-shot most people, obviously, unless if they haven't upgraded their vigor, you'll one-shot them. But those outliers aside, there's no true combo like the Soul Mass into Soul Spear thing that will effectively give you a one-shot. And the only sort of tactic that's up the miracle build sleeve with regards to straight up combat is poise casting, which is really good, don't get me wrong, it's a good tactic, but the damage you'll do to a host or phantom compared to the damage you'll receive from getting dogpiled on doesn't really make it worth it. A lot of the time you have to kind of time when you do it, and obviously if someone understands poise casting and sees what you're doing, then it's fairly easy to avoid, because with the slow cast of the miracles you can just run around and backstab it or just roll out the way. And this leads into my next point about miracle builds, in that a lot of them take up two attunement slots, unlike a lot of the high damaging sorceries like Crystal Soul Spear takes up one fucking FP on attunement slot. Go figure with that. I mean, so does Chaos Fire Orb, but something Sunlight Spear takes up one. However, something like Lightning Storm and Wrath of the Gods, really, really slow casting AoE spells, takes up 2 fucking attunement slots. I can go figure. Which is absolutely ridiculous, and the damage they do doesn't outweigh the 2 attunement slots and the slowness of its cast speed. So you might be thinking, why? So I'm just trying to convince you why faith builds are bad. Right? It's just one of the reasons why they underperform in PvP scenarios. So the real benefit of doing a faith build isn't in PvP, it is in co-op and PvE. So obviously I created this build and I ran through all the PvE a couple times to get all the rings and bits and pieces that I needed. And blow me down, this is incredibly powerful against the base game. Obviously you have access to all the healing miracles, which gives you just a shit ton of extra healing. Wrath of the Gods is fantastic against PvE mobs. Like, Deacons of the Deep is a fucking joke with Wrath of the Gods. You will just obliterate the entire screen, and the game won't be able to respawn the enemies enough to overwhelm you. It's absolutely hilarious. So, yeah, and obviously in co-op scenarios, we've all seen the caster at the back, like lobbing sunlight spears, which, you know, do damage, but then they have all the healing miracles and regen miracles to heal up the party. That's the real strength of the faith build, and what I believe is the original intention when, you know, creating this part of the game. Faith builds aren't really meant to be an offensive class; they are a support class. Just like sorcerers aren't meant to be real melee builds. Faith builds aren't really meant to be it either, they're more of a support class. Now, I'm just going to go completely against the grain here and say that faith builds do make a really fun melee build. So I wanted to try out a bunch of spells, and everyone remembers Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls Remastered. The WoG spam, my god, the WoG spam was terrible in Dark Souls 1, and you remember that Parsley Slayer and I made a video when Dark Souls Remastered come out, where we created a build with 12 Wrath of the Gods, and we just invaded in Darkwood Garden and obliterated absolutely everyone, because most of the gangers in DSR were absolute dog shit and couldn't reaction roll to save their life. So I wanted to try something similar again with Wrath of the Gods in Dark Souls 3. I already tried it a little bit in one of my older videos. It was a soul level 70 strength faith build, and it was incredibly underwhelming because I hadn't invested in really the damage stats for the spell, and I didn't have a good catalyst. So this time I went full 60 faith, which is, I think, the hard cap, soft cap for faith. I can't remember. You get the most damage at 60 faith. I chose a good catalyst. The Saint's catalyst, the one that you get in Undead Supplement, does give you the highest spell buff at 60 faith. Pow! And he's dead. However, the poise you get from Unfaltering Prayer is absolute shite. You can poise through maybe straight swords and daggers and stuff, but that's it. Anything bigger than a straight sword or an axe, you're going to get your poise broken, and that's no good when the whole point of the build is you want people to trade with you. So I went with the regular talisman, which is 20 less spell attunement, but it's the next best thing. That isn't like a chime, which, you know, wouldn't be any use to me because it doesn't have Unfaltering Prayer. So yeah, I went with that, and the few points I had left over, I went into vigor and attunement, which honestly wasn't a lot. I think I've got 24 attunement, which gives me 4 slots. And like I said before, Wrath of the Gods takes up 2 of those slots, which is really a fucking joke, because it's such a slow casting miracle. Like, it is unbearably slow sometimes. So I've stuck on the Sage's Ring as well. I've currently got the +1 version, I'm just about to get the +2, which makes the cast speed somewhat bearable. And then the other 2 slots I've added Lightning Arrow, which fucking great miracle, as you all know. Don't have to explain why Lightning Arrow is good. 300 damage, that's safe range, pretty decent. I could have gone with Sunlight Spear, but I preferred the faster cast of Lightning Arrow over Sunlight Spear. And then for my final attunement slot, I've also put Heal Aid on the build. Now, Heal Aid is good very, very early game, like Undead Settlement and Lothric High Wall, good early game. But at high faith, let's say 60 faith that I have right now with a good catalyst, you will heal about as much as a Siegbrow, probably a little bit more, because a Siegbrow heals about 300 HP, which is equivalent to 1 unupgraded Estus. and I had a look. I was doing about 350 HP per cast of Heal Aid, and because it has its fast cast speed, well, naturally without the Sage's Ring, and low FP costs compared to the other healing miracles, you'll get a lot more bang for your buck as opposed to using like Bountiful Sunlight or Great Heal or something like that, which takes up a huge amount of FP, and you have to be a decent distance away from your opponent to cast, which you don't often get in invasions, as you all well know. Yeah, so there are different ways that you could rock a Faith PvP build. You can go for poise casting, high damage. Say high damage in inverted commas, because I think Wrath of the Gods is doing me about 600 damage per hit, which, you know, not that great compared to the other schools of casting. But yeah, you can go for the poise casting build, or you could go for a regen healing build, which would also work very well. Again, another negative point towards the Faith build is that I'm soul level 90 at the moment, and I've put all my points into having 60 Faith. You don't get a lot of extra points to invest in your Vigor, so you could shave a little bit more off attunement and use simple infused shields or Kaistas to regen your FP naturally without having to worry about losing FP. That is an option, but again, and then you'd have to sacrifice weapon variety because you don't want to be investing in strength of dex, because you want to get the most out of your Faith. So I think the only weapon I got on this build is a longsword and a partisan, which I can only wield two-handed. But there are ways in order to make Faith builds work in regular invasions. You just have to be a little more creative, and sort of the sorcery and pyromancer builds, where there's only kind of one good way to make those builds work. Now, going back to Wrath of the Gods, this is perhaps my favourite miracle that I've tried out. I started off with Sunlight Spear, Lightning Storm and Heal Aid, using Lightning Storm as my AoE. I don't like it as much as Wrath of the Gods. I don't know whether it's just because it just has a more satisfying sound, and you know, it's got that huge knockback attack like Force does, so you can knock your opponent on the ground. Or what? I think it does about the same amount of damage, but it's so much fun hitting people with WoG. So I've essentially based my entire playstyle around chaining WoGs on people. And honestly, once you get people in a WoG chain, you can quite often get 2 or 3 WoGs on people, and they just get caught in the chain of being knocked down and getting woken up with WoG. It's fucking fantastic. So the best tactic to use is you got to assess people's momentum and how they're playing towards you, because obviously it's just so easy to dodge when people are just backpedaling on you constantly. So you got to assess their momentum, get them in a position where they're willing to at least engage with you. Don't throw the WoG out there just willy-nilly, so then they know they're going to be looking out, but you have to surprise them with it after like I'd say a minute of just pure melee combat. You just bam, hit them with the WoG, and even good players will forget that they're going to be swinging into a poise caster. It's fantastic. So you do that, get them with the first WoG, run up on them, instantly poise cast again as they wake up, and unless they're rolling directly away from you, if they've locked onto you and they start rolling around you, the WoG will more often than not get them again, and you can just chain the poise cast, and just 2 WoGs usually does it, 3 WoGs will get everyone, which is fantastic. Another good tactic to use, which you'll see in some of the clips coming up, is you get them with a backstab, like a rolly backstab or whatever, and then you get your talisman out and you just poise cast it instantly, and because the recovery from your recovery frames from finishing the backstab animation and going into casting means that they don't have a lot of time to get out of there. So if they even by a split second don't time their rolls correctly, they will get caught in the WoG, and you can chain another one. Chaining a WoG is easier after the first cast, which is the one thing you should take away from this. So I just wanted to run back to one of the points I just made about talking about talismans and casting catalysts for miracles. So, just in case any of you are interested in trying out a faith build for yourself, and you're sort of interested in what would be the best way to go about building one, the way the catalysts work sort of tier-wise is that the higher damaging catalysts have the least poise health with Unfaltering Prayer. So like I said before, the Saint's Talisman, has the highest spell adjustment, but like I said, the poise health is pretty minimal. It then goes to the regular talisman, then the Canvas Talisman, and then I think the Sunlight Talisman has the highest poise health for all the regular cloth talismans. I'm not so sure about the Darkmoon one that Cirrus has. I'm not sure where that comes into it. So if you're doing an offensive miracle build like this one, where you're going to be poise casting a lot, the regular talisman strikes a nice balance between damage and poise health, because even with the high, even if you did have high damage and high poise, you don't want to be trading all the time with your miracles, because although you're still going to do a bit more damage, the damage you're going to be taking by being dogpiled is just going to bleed you out of your Estus. And if there's like 3 or 4 people, then the 700 or so damage you're going to do with your Wrath of the Gods or your Lightning Storm isn't really going to make up for it. So you could work it with the Saint's Talisman, where you only use it when you know you're going to be safe. Say after you've just had a backstab on someone, then you go to poise cast it. But if you're being dogpiled, switch over to a high poise catalyst. That would be a lot better. This was actually one of my favourite invasions of them. Testing out this build, this was my absolute favourite one. So the guys had managed to get themselves onto that little side bit of the slope there, and got them with a couple of lightning arrows. And going back to the tactics using this build, you can just spam WoG sometimes, and some people will literally just fall for it, because not a lot of people use the spell, so not a lot of people understand its range and its damage, so they'll try and outspace you, and then boom, dead. So sometimes that works. Sometimes you can just keep casting it over and over again, and with high enough FP, they think, oh, he's done 2 casts now, he's going to have to choke, but you just keep going. You just keep chain casting it. I've had quite a few salty hosts and phantoms get quite irate at me for just chain casting WoGs over and over again. It's good fun. I would say if I would have to rank the schools of casting, because I've done the Pyro, the Pure Sorcery, and now the Miracle build. For fun, I would say the Miracle build is like top of my fun list. Like spamming miracles and killing people with what people consider to be the worst kind of build is absolutely hysterical, and I love it. Then it goes Sorcery, and then Pyromancy. Pyromancy is good in a practical sense. If you want to win the most invasions using a caster, you go Pyromancy. But for me, I think I judge fun to be more important than my win ratio at this point, so Miracle builds are so much fun. So I would greatly advise you give this one a go. So with this invasion here, you'll see an example of how you should be using WoG, because with Great Hammers, the normal talisman, you'll get knocked out your poise health before you finish your cast. So poise casting into that hammer is not a good idea. So get the rolly backstab, go instantly into the cast, boom. Now, he didn't have enough time to escape from that, because either he rolls forward and he goes off the cliff, or he rolls behind me or to the side and he gets caught in the WoG. So that was a perfect execution of Wrath of the Gods. Now this, again, was another fun invasion where you have to use your WoG responsibly. So you got your straight sword parry shield guy. I know he's going to want to use that parry at some point, so keep WoG in my pocket. Dance around him, just think I'm just a regular straight sword melee build. Boom. Wasn't expecting it, got the parry, and then chained the WoG together. And then you get to mock him relentlessly for his failed parry attempt, because I'm so MLG pro. so many AFK bonfire warriors lately. Bless them. Again, I think this was another example of a good use of Wrath of the Gods. I feel like I've gotten quite used to using this spell now. When I first started using the build, I would just run up on people and cast it and expect them to, you know, get caught in it. But yeah, you go for the rolling backstab, run up on them, they don't have time to get out of it, chain it together. Again, he couldn't escape that. Either he rolls into the wall or he rolls around me and he gets caught in the WoG. That's, yeah, top banana. So I will leave you with this last invasion. It was probably my favourite one. The players were good fun, and it was just a great use of all the utility of the build. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you're all staying safe, and I'll see you again.